Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the podcast where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. I'm Professor Sides. You can follow me on Twitter at Professor Sides. Today is Tuesday, April 12th, 2022. This episode covers all of today's Major League Baseball games. In case you're new here, I built a mathematical model that predicts the probability that each team wins, and I analyze weather data in order to come up with picks on some totals. I'll make a pick on every game that's played Monday through Saturday. That doesn't mean that I recommend that you do the same. I'm just giving you the information as to what I like the most and where my head is for each matchup. As I go through the plays, remember there are no locks in gambling, so I'll give you our loves, likes, and leans to help you decide which plays you might want to play and how I recommend scaling your wagers. With that in mind, please understand that good and bad variance will occur. So as much as I like to say we'll be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. So far, that continues to be our reality that we are profitable each and every day. Again, that will not hold, but so far it's been a lot of fun. 4 straight profitable days. Yesterday, 7-4, and we had the one push, another 4.5 units in the bank. That puts us up over 21 units so far in these 4 days, about a 20% ROI. It's been fantastic, and we're going to keep trying to keep that train rolling as long as possible. And hopefully we can do that today as well. Before we get to that, slight reminder, please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Subscribe or follow if you aren't yet. It's the only way to ensure you don't miss any of the college basketball, MLB, or college football content that this channel provides. Share with a friend if you know others in the game, and drop a comment on Twitter or YouTube. We love those and try to respond to as many as we can. We've got one early game today, 1 p.m. Eastern. First pitch, Red Sox at the Tigers. We got to the window yesterday with the Tigers, and I'm going to go back to the well and make the same play again. Tigers plus 111 is my recommendation here. That's a B graded pick for me. The model thinks the Red Sox should be a slight minus 105 favorite. The fact that they're minus 121 is just a little bit crazy for me. I think these two teams are much closer than people are expecting. Both of these pitchers are okay. Rich Hill for the Red Sox, Tyler Alexander for the Tigers. Nothing really special about either one. I think it's a toss-up game. If you're getting plus odds, I like the Tigers here in the afternoon delight game of the day here. Tigers plus 111, B play for me there. We have several 4:10 Eastern first pitches. The first one we're going to talk about here is the Mariners at the White Sox. The White Sox are a slight favorite here. The model thinks that the White Sox should be minus 127. They're only minus 123, so it's not crazy if you wanted to back the White Sox. I'm looking a different direction, though, mainly because I don't know much about the Mariners starter, Matt Brash. I do know a lot about the White Sox starter, Vince Velasquez, and Velasquez is pretty hit or miss. He's the type of pitcher who could get pulled after 2 innings, or he's the type of pitcher that could go 6 strong. He's just all over the map, so I don't really want to back his team. Instead, I'm going to really hold my breath and take the under 9 minus 105 for a B play. This is a scary play for me, given these two starting pitchers, but the Mariners haven't really lit the world on fire with their bats, and this is great under weather. It'll be about 60 degrees, not in the 60s, about 60, with a strong wind in, and so I just think the ball's not going to fly. I think the bats are still cold. It's always scary to take an under when you see two pitchers of this caliber, but thankfully that's why the number is a little higher than if it were better pitchers. So under 9 at minus 105 odds is the B pick for me. There are some places that I'm seeing this at 9.5 with really heavy juice in the minus 125, minus 130 range. I personally don't like laying those type of odds. If you have another out, I like the under 9 at better than normal juice rather than laying a heavy price there like a minus 125 or a minus 130 just to get the half run. In general, I don't think the half run's worth that type of discrepancy. So something to keep in mind as you shop around for your baseball bets. Guardians at the Reds here, the Battle of Ohio, 4:10 Eastern first pitch. Shane Bieber and Tyler Mahle, two really good pitchers going at it right here. The model thinks that the Guardians should be minus 108, which falls pretty squarely in between where the numbers are. And so I don't think there's much edge right now on the side. Obviously, that may change when we get closer to first pitch. Instead, I'm going to go under 8 at minus 110, and I'm giving this an A grade. I really like this under. Cincinnati can play like a Little League park in the summer where the wind blows out and it's hot, but that's not the case today. Today, the temperature is going to be in the upper 60s. The wind is going to be blowing in at almost 10 miles an hour. Two great starting pitchers, two teams that I really don't trust their bats at all. I think we're getting some value. I think this number with these pitchers and these conditions should be 7, maybe 7.5 would be probably more respectable. I personally think 7, but I would have understood much more if the odds were actually set at 7.5. That's probably where the number should be. I'd still go under 7.5. I just don't like it nearly as much as the fact that we've got some push protection here in case we land, 5-3, 6-2, something like that. So a pick for me. I think that there's just a perception of Cincinnati being a hitter's ballpark, which is true in the right conditions. But with these pitchers, I think we've got an extra half run to full run of value here. So a pick for me under 8 in one of our late afternoon starts. And in the other late afternoon game, Cubs at the Pirates. Of the 3 games on at this time slot, this is the one you're probably only watching if you're a fan of either team. It won't be nearly as good baseball. I've got a B pick for you on the Pirates plus 106. I make this straight up 50-50, a coin toss game. So I'm taking the plus odds. And I'm going to say there's value where there's value. And in the long run, it's going to make us money. It's what we're all about here, is just making smart plays. We got a lot of games this season, and that doesn't mean the Pirates will win this one. It just means at plus odds, if we do this every single day in the long run, we're going to slowly increase that bankroll. So B pick for me, Pirates plus 106. It's a little chilly with respect to hitting weather there, but it's very good for Pittsburgh this time of year. So nothing really exciting there about the weather. No real total take for me. Just a toss-up game. I still have Quintana as the better pitcher between Quintana and Smiley, two pitchers who have both seen better days. And so I have the slightly better pitcher with Quintana. We're in Pittsburgh. Cubs offense probably a little better. Again, toss-up game. Take the plus odds here. I think makes a lot of sense. So Pirates plus 106 as a B play for me there. Which takes us to our evening games. Athletics at the Rays here, 6:40 Eastern first pitch. We got to the window yesterday with a huge plus odds winner in Oakland. And I'm going to do the same thing today. This number doesn't make any sense to me. It didn't make any sense yesterday. I'm going to up my grade on this one, though. I'm actually going to go with a B pick rather than yesterday's C pick. And the reason why is because at least I thought Patino yesterday was solid for Tampa. Now, of course, obviously, I hope he's okay. He got injured in the first inning. But going into the game, my perception was that Patino was going to pitch more than an inning, and he's a solid pitcher and not a great pitcher, not a pitcher that I wanted to lay the minus 200 whatever odds you'd have to lay with Tampa, but at least I thought he was solid. Tommy Romero for Tampa, I have him as much further behind. That doesn't mean that won't change by the end of the season. You never really know, right? And he may come out and pitch the game of his life. Again, you never know, but in general, I think he's not in the same class as Patino is, and so this number just doesn't make any sense to me. Oakland's to the point where I don't know who they even have on their team pitching-wise. It's just throwing random guys out there, but they seem to do okay for the most part. I've mentioned this before. I'll mention it again. I think we're going to be back in the A's a lot. If you've blind bet them every game this year, you've been up because their 2 wins were huge plus odds. So I like the same thing here. B pick for me, A's plus 175, as the model thinks it should only be a 185 money line. And so lots of value here on the A's. Again, doesn't mean they'll win. It just means in the long run, if we make these types of plays, we're going to be increasing that bankroll, which is our goal. But at that same time, we've got the Mets at the Phillies, 6:45 Eastern first pitch there. Tyler McGill coming off a fantastic first start of the season versus Zach Wheeler making his first start of the season. It appears that Wheeler is a full go. It appears he's not going to be limited to something like 40 or 50 pitches. He might go 75 up to 80 pitches, which is about how long most starters seem to be going at this point of the season. So I'm thinking he's about where everyone else is. If he's behind, it's only a small bit, nothing that one good or bad inning wouldn't completely change anyway. So I'm not giving any penalty for Wheeler there because it seems like he's been built up pretty well. So that's my assumption that I'm making going into this. The model thinks the Phillies should be minus 151, so I'm giving you an A pick on the Phillies minus 143. I think there's a lot of value here. I don't think that McGill's going to do the same thing that he did the first start. I think the Phillies offense is a lot better than the Nationals offense, so I think he'll be in for a little bit of a rude awakening here. So I think there's just a lot of value on this number. I think the Phillies should be north of minus 150, maybe even close to minus 160, I think would be the number that makes more sense to me. So the fact that we're about minus 140 offers a ton of value in my opinion. So I'll give it an A pick. The weather's going to be nice. Upper 60s, not a lot of wind. So there's not really a good angle there on the total for me. I think the Phillies get it done tonight. Brewers at the Orioles. Right now, there is there's some different lines out there. We don't know who the pitcher is for the Orioles officially. I'm putting in generic, random, awful Orioles starter versus Lauer for the Brewers, and I make that Brewers minus 144. That number is subject to change. I'll rerun the numbers when we know who is pitching and update the sheet accordingly. But I think it'll be about in that ballpark. I don't see it changing too much based on the different possibilities of who they might start. There's a general consensus right now of about 9 for the total. So I'm going to go under 9 right now, minus 110 odds as a B pick. I've seen that in a lot of books. The weather is going to be in the 60s, not a lot of wind. Yesterday, the wind was blowing out, and these two teams couldn't sniff this number. I think that Lauer can capitalize on the Orioles' bad bats. I don't like either offense. We've talked about this all season. The Brewers' offense is just lost. Maybe they score on whoever pitches for Baltimore. Maybe they don't. I just don't want any part of the side on this. My hunch is, based off the numbers I'm seeing, my hunch is the model's going to give a slight Orioles edge. And that doesn't mean you should or shouldn't play it. It's just I don't really want any part of it because I think Lauer is going to hold the Orioles in check. I don't see the Orioles scoring very many runs. That doesn't mean the Orioles won't win just like they did yesterday. So there might be value on it. Take the Orioles. If that's your angle, that's fine. I don't think that's the best play. I think I'd rather just take under 9 and think getting to double digits seems to be a monumental task for these two teams. Even though Baltimore is a hitter's park, that's when it's summer there, when it's 100 degrees, they push that left field fence back, and that's not the conditions today. So I think under 9 is a smart play. So I'm taking that as a B pick. And ignoring the side, the Brewers offense might figure it out. They might not. I don't want to have to care if they win 7-1 or lose 3-1. Either way, will be a winner with under 9 on that one. Blue Jays at Yankees, 7:05 Eastern, first pitch. Kikuchi and Cortez, two pitchers that I don't really trust either one of them. The model thinks that the Yankees should be a minus 115 favorite, which gives us no edge on the side. I'm going to take a C pick over 9.5. The wind is slightly out, about 8 miles an hour or so to center field. The weather is kind of warming up a little bit with regards to what it's been for the Yankees bats. It's not warming up enough to make me like this over, but an extra couple of degrees, these Yankees hitters are continuing to maybe get accustomed a little bit to the cold weather, so maybe the bats will get going. It's not something I really like. That's why I said just a lean, just a C pick, just because I think there's kind of a maybe the Yankees bats will get going here as the weather-ish warms up. It's I'm kind of whispering that it's not really getting that warm, but it's a little warmer than some other games. A little bit of wind helps. A little bit of I don't trust either pitcher helps. So it's just a high number. If 8.5 or 9, I'd feel better because you got that push protection. 9, I'd feel better because if it's a 4-4 game, right, you're set. So I think over's the side I'd rather be on, but I don't love it. I don't love either side on this one. For me, there's just not a lot of advantage in this one. So I'll lean over, but I think there's a lot better opportunities on the board for you elsewhere, in my opinion. Marlins at the Angels, an earlier first pitch for them out there, 7:07 Eastern. So that'll be a 4 o'clock local first pitch. The Angels are a solid minus 143 favorite. The model makes the Angels minus 143. So if you had to go one side or the other, I would lay it with the Angels, but I don't really like that. I don't think there's a big enough edge. Both these pitchers are pretty solid. Luzardo for the Marlins, Sandoval for the Angels. And they're both a little bit inconsistent, so I don't really know which one's going to show up. I'm going to trust that at least one of them does show up, though, and I'm going to go under 9.5. It is minus 125, which I don't like. It's a B pick for me. I'd probably rather play under 9 if you could get a minus 105. We talked about this earlier. The temperature is still going to be in the 60s. So even though it's the daytime, it's not going to be like it was last week in Anaheim. At the end of last week in those Astros games, first pitch was 6:30 out there local time, and it was 80 degrees. Here it'll be in the 60s. The wind is blowing out to right, which is the only reason this isn't an A play. I think they're going to need a lot of those wind-aided home runs to go over this number. So if the wind wasn't blowing out, I'd really like this under. We saw it last night. The Angels had got a couple runs there early, but for the most part, this game just ground to a halt. Neither one of these offenses is very good. And again, we just really need one of the starting pitchers to show up in order to stay under this 9.5. We don't actually need both of them. If both do, then it'll be an easy under. We're not sure if Trout will play tonight. Seems like he had a stomach issue last night. I don't think that's actually a huge effect, though. He's only going to get 4 at-bats. It's not like, in football, you have a key wide receiver or whatever. You can target that guy 20 times in a game if you really wanted to. In basketball, right, you can get that guy the ball, 30 shots if you really felt like it, right, if he was a key player. Trout's only going to get 4 at-bats probably this game. He might get 5, but there's definitely no guarantee of that. And then he can get left on base or not play, and it's the same result with this Angels team. They are leaving a lot of people on base because they can't seem – they don't have enough depth to really get the offense rolling. So, a slight downgrade if Trout is not playing, obviously, but not a huge one, not nearly the effect that you might see in some other sports. So whether he plays or not, I still think under 9 or under 9.5, if you have to lay the juice, makes a lot of sense for this one. B pick for me, again, just because the wind blowing out to right scares me off of it a little bit because we might see 3 or 4 extra home runs there. And if we do, that's not going to go well. Hopefully we'll only see 1 extra home run and we can, finish similar to that, 4-2-ish game that we had yesterday. Nationals at the Braves, 7:20 Eastern, first pitch. It seems like Touki Toussaint for the Braves. That has not been confirmed, thus there's not really a line out yet at the time of this recording against Corbin. The model makes this Braves minus 146. A couple of shops that do hang numbers early and don't really care about starters have hung it right around this number. So this is one where I will tweet out an official pick once we get a pitcher confirmation and once we get more settling of the line here on this one. The weather's warm, mid-upper 70s, definitely warm for an April day. Wind in from right field to third base. So a couple of different angles to look at here, slider, total. It'll just depend on where the number is. Again, assuming Toussaint is the pitcher for the Braves. So stay tuned on that one. We will post on Twitter, and I'll go ahead and fill in the sheet early for the official pick on that one. Dodgers at the Twins, 7:40 p.m. Eastern, first pitch. Andrew Heaney versus Chris Archer. The model thinks the Dodgers should be a minus 122 favorite, so maybe a slight Twins edge if you wanted to look that way. I do not think this game is going to get finished based off of the weather. It looks like some nasty stuff is coming in. They may not even try to play it. It kind of depends on how early or how late that system comes through. If it comes in earlier and it looks like it's coming in around the second inning or third inning, they may not even try to play it. If it does look like they can get in, 6-7 innings, then they probably try to give it a go. So TBD on if this game even gets played or if it finishes. And with that in mind, because it might not finish, I'm actually making a slightly different play here. I don't usually do this. I don't love taking first fives. I like the extra few innings to avoid the variance. Every time you hear would have won in the first 5 or whatever, there's a would have lost in the first 5, and you have to pay extra juice. So I don't like that. So I'm almost always going to stay full game. But in this game, I really like the under. I think Heaney I think Heaney's going to have a bounce back season. I think his underlying numbers are a lot better. The Dodgers do wonder with pitchers. So I expect Heaney to be a pretty solid pitcher this year. I think Archer's not that bad. I think, he's not a Cy Young contender anymore, but I still think he's got some left in the tank. And I don't want this bet voided when it's 3-1 after 6 innings if they do start it. So I'm going first 5 under 5.5. It's minus 115 as an A play. I really like this under here. I would rather have the full game under, but as of right now, since I don't think they finish the game, that would be a voided bet. Under bets need to go the full distance in order to be graded, whereas side bets do not. And so money line side bets, right? A run line would. And so because of that, I'm going to shift to the first 5, again, under 5.5. A pick for me. I really like this under. The wind is 14 miles an hour in. It'll be in the low 50s. It'll be nasty weather to try to play baseball in. The bats will be slow. Again, the cold weather favors the pitcher, so I really like this under 5.5, first 5, A play for me. But at the same time, Royals at the Cardinals. Daniel Lynch and Dakota Hudson. The model thinks the Cardinals should be a minus 138 favorite, which gives me a B pick on the Royals, plus 154. Just too much value to pass up on. That's all there is to it here. The weather's going to be nice, mid-70s. Big wind out to left. I like the pitchers for both teams. I think they're pretty good, but the wind out to left makes it total just a straight pass for me. Anytime I have just conflicting weather versus starting pitcher likes or dislikes, I want those to line up on my strong under-over plays. And in this case, they counteract each other. Just too much value to pass up on the Royals. That doesn't mean they win. We've talked about this before, but at plus 154, that is some great value for what is closer to a 50-50 game than the odds would imply. So B pick for me on the Royals. Rockies and Rangers. Chad Kuhl versus Martin Perez. The Rangers are a minus 148 favorite. The model thinks it should be Rangers minus 136. So I'm going to take a C pick just to lean on the Rockies plus 137. It's going to be in a dome, I guess. They opened the roof yesterday, even though it was like 90 degrees. So that was kind of puzzling. So I don't know what they'll do. The weather here in the DFW area where I live is supposed to get rough tonight, so I assume it will stay closed. So no weather edge to talk about on the totals. I get what the model says. I'm kind of taking the plus odds. Again, the model thinks there's slight value there. I have zero idea with these teams. I don't know about y'all, but the Rockies and the Rangers both have had stretches in every game where they've looked really good and stretches where they've looked really bad. The Rangers, we had an A play on them yesterday. They're up 4-1 late, make multiple errors in the late innings, get the game into extras, and have it end in a weird way. I mean, it's just a weird game yesterday. I don't trust either one of these teams. I don't know. I don't have a feel for either one of them. So just a lean for me on the Rockies because it kind of feels like one of those anything can happen games and nothing would shock me. So plus 137 is going to give us some value if the Rockies hit. If not, we've only lost a unit. I don't want to lay odds in I don't know how either team's going to perform type game. That'll bring us to our two late games, 9:40 Eastern first pitch, Astros at the Diamondbacks. Luis Garcia versus Madison Bumgarner. We'll try to get more than 3 innings out of Bumgarner tonight against a much better Astros offense than the Padres. Model thinks Astros minus 143. They are minus 146, so I'm staying off of the side. Instead, I'm taking under 9, even money, A play for me. We're in a dome, so there shouldn't be any weather effect there. I talked about this opening day with Cousin Jared. Bumgarner, I think, is going to pitch better this year than he did last year. He did labor in that 3rd inning last game, but he put 3 innings, gave up 1 run. I expect him to be stretched out a little bit longer today. All he's looking to get is maybe 5 innings, 1 run would be fantastic. Luis Garcia, quietly one of the better pitchers for the Astros last year. I see this one having a hard time getting to double digits. The Diamondbacks offense is bad. I think Garcia is going to have his way with the Diamondbacks, and the Diamondbacks pitchers with Brent Strom as the pitching coach have looked a lot better this year. So until the number catches up to these Diamondbacks under situations, I think we got to take advantage of that. So A play for me under 9, especially even money. I think there's a lot of value there. Again, double digits just seems really unlikely. The only way that happens if the Astros run away with it. So another angle to look might be a Diamondbacks team total under. Again, as I mentioned with the first 5, though, personally, I don't like that because I don't like to minimize part of the game. I want the largest sample size possible to avoid fluky things, and you have to lay extra juice. So I don't personally love the team totals, but if that's your thing, Diamondbacks team total under I think also makes a lot of sense, as I think I trust Luis Garcia a lot. And again, I expect to bounce back from Madison Bumgarner, so under 9. I think this total should actually be closer to 8. And if it was 7.5, I don't think I would. I'd be a little surprised to be the number that low, but if it was 7.5, I'd look at it and say that's probably not that far. 7.5, 8, I think makes a lot of sense. Even at 8.5, I think there's value on the under if the number comes down throughout the day. And then our last game, Padres at the Giants, 9:45 Eastern first pitch. Yu Darvish and Alex Cobb. I feel like I'm going to say the exact same thing about this game as I said the game before. That the number's a lot lower because the run scoring environment is a lot lower. With regards to the side, the model thinks Giants minus 103, so there's no edge on either side, according to the model as of the recording of this podcast. Totals under 7.5. That's an A pick for me at minus 105 odds. The wind is hard out to center again today, a little bit less than yesterday. Today's more like 20 miles an hour. Yesterday was about 25. Didn't affect anything yesterday. The total still went way under. And I mentioned this yesterday in case you missed that episode. The wind in that park is really weird. It swirls. They built it to minimize the wind coming off the bay, and they did a good/weird job because you never know what the wind's going to do. Even if you know the direction, it kind of just one slight shift and it tunnels differently in that park. So it's the one park that wind blowing out doesn't really bother me. The first game of the season with the Giants got wonky. There were late runs and extra innings, but otherwise, under still seems the way to look in this park, humidor aside, trying to bring the offensive production up there as we've added this humidor for every park in the country. But I think about those first games against Miami, against the Giants, and I think Miami and San Diego are kind of similar in their offensive struggles. They're kind of similar in terms that they don't really have a ton of guys in the bullpen that I really trust. I mean, Bender and Rogers are probably pretty comparable. And beyond that, they just got a lot of guys who are decent. I think they profile pretty similar. I mean, obviously the Padres have, Manny Machado. The Marlins don't have anyone of that caliber, but otherwise they're relatively similar. And those games went under. Last night's game went under. It'll be 50 degrees and, perfect under weather. So I still think under is the way to look here. So under 7.5. A play for me. So just to recap, a lot of A plays today. There will be days where there'll be 15 games and I'll only say there's 1 or 2 A plays, things I like, but there's a lot that I like today. Under 7.5 in the Padres Giants, under 9 in the Astros Diamondbacks, the first 5 under 5.5 in Dodgers Twins. Again, I would like that full game, except it looks like that's probably not going to get a full 9 in. Phillies minus 143. I think Zach Wheeler comes out strong. And since I don't expect any restrictions on him, I think he can get us to the window. And then the other early afternoon game here, Guardians at Reds. I like that under 8. Those are my A plays for the day. A lot that I like. And that is it for me. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Picks with the Professor. Reminder, check out the Google Sheet for model projections and results. You can find that link at the website, www.pickswiththeprofessor.com. If you haven't done so yet, click that subscribe button to ensure all the sports betting content we provide on this channel is dropped right into your feed. I will see you tomorrow. Until then, remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.